Hello, Uncharted ones. Welcome to Season 2 of Uncharted Wealth. My name is Kyle Hittle. I'm a wealth advisor with SWBC Wealth Management, and I'm so excited to be joining you as the new host this season. Before we dive in, I thought I'd share a little bit about myself, and additionally to helping individuals and families navigate their financial lives every day, I'm also living through many of the same milestones myself. My wife and I, we have an 18-month-old child at home, and we're expecting our second child soon, so we're excited about that. It's amazing how becoming a parent changes your perspective, right? You begin to think differently about saving, investing, protection, and long-term planning. Suddenly, financial decisions aren't just about you anymore. They're about creating opportunity and security for the people who depend on you. So as a financial advisor, I spend a lot of time helping clients plan for their future. As a husband and a father, I'm doing many of those things for my own family. That's one of the reasons I'm excited about this season. We will be discussing real-world financial topics that impact families at every stage of life and breaking them down into practical strategies you can actually use. So, let's kick things off with the question. What if the government handed your child or grandchild $1,000 to start investing for the future? That sounds like one of those headlines that get people's attention, right? But some families, it's actually a real opportunity. And while most of the conversation has centered around the $1,000 contribution itself, I think that misses the bigger story. Because when we talk about building wealth, one principle has remained true for generations. Time matters, right? The earlier money is invested, the longer it has the potential to grow. That's why parents and grandparents have traditionally used tools like 529 plans, custodial accounts, and other saving vehicles to help give the next generation a head start. Now, there's a new option called a 530A account, commonly referred as the Trump account, that was designed to encourage long-term investing for childhood. And while there are specific eligibility requirements, many families are surprised to learn that even children who don't qualify for the government's contribution may still be able to have one of these accounts opened on their behalf. So today we're going to break down what these accounts are, who qualifies, how they work, and why the real opportunities may be much bigger than just the initial $1,000 contribution. I have 3 reasons I want to discuss regarding the Trump accounts. Okay, reason 1, the government may contribute the first $1,000. So let's start with the headline everyone's talking about, right? For certain eligible children, the federal government provides a one-time $1,000 contribution through a 530A account, the Trump account. Generally, the child must be a U.S. citizen, have a valid Social Security number, and be born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028. For families who qualify, that's a meaningful head start. It's not often that an investment account begins with someone else making that first contribution, right? But here's something important that many people misunderstood. Eligibility for the government contribution and eligibility for the account itself aren't necessarily the same thing. Many children who don't qualify for the $1,000 contribution may still be eligible to have a 530A account established on their behalf. Generally, a child can have a Trump account if they are under the age of 18, have a valid Social Security number, and do not already have a Trump account that we mentioned before. Only one account may be established per child. I think that's pretty simple. So while the government $1,000 gets the headlines, right, but the account itself may be available to a much broader group of families. Reason number 2, it creates a new way for families to build generation wealth. So one of the most unique features of these accounts is who can contribute. With many traditional saving strategies, funding options can be limited, but Trump's 530A accounts allow contributions from multiple sources, including parents, grandparents, other relatives, family friends, employers sometimes, certain charitable organizations, certain government entities. Currently, contributions are limited to $5,000 annually per child from all sources combined, although the amount may be adjusted for inflation in the future. Another key distinction is that the child does not need to earn income to receive contributions. That's a significant difference compared to custodial Roth IRAs, which generally require earned income before contributions can be made. Thinking about the possibilities, Instead of every birthday or holiday gift being another toy or gadget, right? Grandparents and family members could help contribute towards a child's future financial foundation. Very important. For some families interested in building wealth across generations, that flexibility creates some interesting planning opportunities. So let's get to the last reason, reason 3. The real value may be the time horizon. This is where I think the biggest opportunity exists. The media focuses on the $1,000 government contribution, right? But wealth is often built through consistency and time. If a child receives contributions throughout childhood, those funds may have nearly 18 years to grow before the beneficiary gains access to the account. The power of compounding is difficult to overstate. Every year that money remains invested creates the potential for additional growth, and that growth can then generate growth on its own. In other words, right, the greatest value may not be the government's initial contribution. The greatest value may be giving the child a long runway for investing. When investing starts early, time becomes one of the most powerful assets available. To qualify for the federal contribution, the child must be a U.S. citizen, have a valid Social Security number, and be born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028, like I mentioned earlier. But here's what's important. Eligibility for the government contribution and eligibility for the account itself is not the same thing. Many children who don't qualify for the $1,000 contribution may still be eligible to their own 530A account. Generally speaking, the child must be under the age of 18, have a valid Social Security number, and have not already had the account established on themselves. Now let's take this a step further as we enter our Uncharted section. This is where the conversation becomes less about a government program and more about generational wealth planning. One of the questions we start hearing is whether families should do a 530A account or a 529 educational plan. In many cases, that may be the wrong question. A 529 plan is especially designed for education funding and offers valuable tax advantages for qualified educational expenses. A Trump account, 530A account, serves a different purpose. The Trump account isn't built solely around education. Instead, it provides a broader wealth building framework that may ultimately support future goals such as homeownership, entrepreneurship, retirement savings, or other long-term financial objectives. So rather than viewing these strategies as a competitor, many families find they serve complementary roles. Another important planning consideration is what happens when the child turns 18 years old. Current guidelines indicate that the account generally transitions into a traditional IRA framework. At that point, the beneficiary gains control of the account, and future contributions generally become subject to traditional IRA laws. That's an important distinction between the account does not automatically become a Roth IRA. Understanding how the transition fits with broader financial goals is one reason why families may want to think strategically about how much they're contributing and what roles the account intended to play decades down the road. So to wrap up, when you view these accounts through that lens, they become more than just a government-funded investment. They become another tool that can potentially support long-term wealth creation across generations. So in closing, and honestly, this topic hits home for me personally. So my wife and I, we have an 18-month-old child at home, like I said at the beginning, and we're expecting another baby soon. So like a lot of parents, we're consistently thinking about the future and what opportunities we can create for our kids. When I first started learning about these accounts, I wasn't focused on the $1,000 government contribution. What stood out to me was the time horizon. If I can start putting money away now while my children are still young and in toddler phases, that gives those dollars potentially 18 years or more to grow before they even use it to make a financial decision themselves. As a financial advisor, I spend a lot of time talking with families about retirement, college funding, and generation wealth, right? But as a dad, I look at this a little differently. I think about giving my kids a head start and teaching them that wealth isn't usually built overnight. It's often built through consistency, patience, and time. My family will likely be taking advantage of this opportunity, not because of the initial contribution, even though it's nice, but because I believe giving children a longer runway to invest can be one of the most impactful, powerful financial gifts a parent can provide. At the end of the day, the $1,000 government contribution is what grabs the attention, but it may not be the most valuable part of the story. The real opportunity is the potential to start investing early, involve multiple generations in the process, and give a child years or even decades time in the market. So for some families, a 530A Trump account could be a valuable addition to the existing plan they already have, including tools like 529 plans, retirement accounts, gift strategies, and estate planning vehicles that we talked about a little bit. The key is understanding how all of those pieces fit together. So here's a simple question to consider. If you're already thinking about your children or grandchildren's future, could a 530A account play a role in helping them get an earlier start? If you're not sure, that's where a conversation can help. We can walk through eligibility requirements, discuss contribution strategies, evaluate how these accounts might fit within your broader wealth management goals. And before we wrap up, I wanted to remind everyone that these are simply my thoughts and observations based on my experience as a financial advisor. Every person's situation is different, and nothing discussed in this podcast should be considered individual investment tax or legal advice. So always consult your own financial tax advisor, legal professional before making financial decisions. So if you're listening on Spotify, don't forget that the full video version will be available on YouTube. Just search SWBC Uncharted Wealth. And if you found this episode helpful, if you enjoyed hearing me talk to you, share it with a parent, grandparent, or someone who's focused on creating opportunities for the next generation. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Investing involves certain risk, including possible loss of principal. You should understand and carefully consider a strategy's objectives, risk, fees, expenses, and other information before investing. The views expressed in this commentary are subject to change and are not intended to be a recommendation or investment advice. Such views do not take into account the individual financial circumstances or objectives of any investor that receives them. This information should not be considered a solicitation nor a recommendation of an offer to provide any service in any jurisdiction where it would be unlawful to do so under the laws of that jurisdiction. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please consult with your individual tax professional and/or attorney for additional information.